Heart rate, is it an asset or is it an annoyance? Are all these things that track wearable technology for our heart rate just a way for companies to sell us products, or are they actually telling us something or helping us improve our fitness? Well, today we're going to take a deep dive and come out on the other side to understand how to utilize heart rate, what it's good for, and maybe what it's not. So what is heart rate? Heart rate is a measurement of the amount of times that your heart goes through a cycle or beats per minute. So we measure it in BPMs or beats per minute. Heart rate is basically a way that we can measure the work that we do as output costs our body to do. So if we take running, for example, a lot of times we think of running as in our pace, our speed. How fast can we run a mile? Is it a 6-minute mile, an 8-minute mile, 12-minute mile? So that's a measurement of the work that's being done or the output. So is wattage. So you can measure running in wattage now with a power meter. You can measure cycling power produced in wattage. That's the work that's been done. But everyone, based upon their fitness level, is going to require a different amount of effort from the body or cost to the body to produce that much work. So if I am running at a 7-minute mile and I have the physical capacity to run at a 6-minute mile, I can go ahead and increase my speed or increase my output, but I have to pay in currency of heart rate a lot more to do that work versus running the 7-minute mile. And heart rate's a great way to measure that. So the reason that heart rate is sometimes annoying to use is because we don't know how to use it. We don't know what the numbers actually mean. And that's because heart rate is individual specific. So if I'm performing an exercise or an activity and I'm at 150 beats per minute and I'm next to my training partner that's at 160 beats per minute, we may be paying with the same cost to our individual bodies, but our scale of heart rates may be way different. So you'll see some people that are outliers on this scale. I have some clients that have a max heart rate that's well over 200 beats per minute, and they're an adult in their 30s, 40s. That's a rarity. Usually that max is going to be, somewhere around 220 minus your age, which is the old estimated equation we used to use to find a max heart rate. And now we can test it. So if my max heart rate can get up to about 185 and someone next to me is exercising and they can get up to 210, well, now our scales are totally different. So if I'm taking, an arbitrary number that I see on my wearable technology, I see on my watch or my Whoop, and I see that I'm exercising at 150 beats per minute and they're doing the same, I'm working a heck of a lot harder than they are because I'm much closer to my max or at a higher percentage of my max heart rate than my training partner is. So that's why in order to use heart rate as an effective tool to measure, again, the cost on our body, we need to understand how to calibrate it. And we can estimate it, but that's going to leave a lot of room for error, or we can measure it with science. We're going to talk about that today. So the reason that heart rate, first of all, is so important to use, and it is an asset, is because it allows us to understand the kind of work that we're doing on our body or to our body with the stimulus that we provide in a training session. So if my goal is to get a specific adaptation to my body when I'm doing my cardio programming, I want to make sure that I don't overdo that stimulus or I don't undershoot my target. And if I go over or under, I may get a stimulus, right? I may change my body, but it may not be in the direction I want. So for example, if I want an endurance adaptation and I'm looking to train to be able to tolerate lower intensities of exercise for longer, or physiologically the adaptation I'm looking for is to build more mitochondria or get them more efficient at utilizing fat as fuel. Or maybe I'm looking to build my capillary density, right, to have better blood flow in my quads when I'm running. If I'm not using heart rate, I'm just going off of pacing, and I'm trying to beat the run that I did last week in my neighborhood, and I'm running the same course, and I just think more is better, or faster and harder, more exertion is better for me, I'm completely overshooting the target stimulus that I'm trying to give my body for that adaptation of improved efficiency and endurance. So if I'm measuring my heart rate using, a chest strap, this wearable technology that we're talking about, I can get immediate feedback during my run to understand that I'm within my parameters. I am in the zone that's going to give me that specific adaptation. If I'm not using heart rate, again, I can over or undershoot and completely miss the boat with what I'm trying to do for that day. Now, if I'm on the other end of the spectrum and I'm looking to, have a big outcome goal for the day, and I want to get my body used to, let's say, threshold training, and I'm targeting something called your AT2, or your anaerobic threshold, and I'm looking to improve my ability to tolerate an acidic environment as I exercise at a high intensity. So we have an acidic environment in our muscles, producing a lot of lactate, and I'm in a place where it's becoming intolerable if I stay there for a while. Think of like 5K, 10K, maybe even 10-mile race pace as hard as you can. If I want to target those efforts and I undershoot that stimulus and my heart rate isn't getting to where right around my threshold is, then I'm not getting that acidic environment adaptation. I'm not learning how to, or teaching my body how to buffer acid there. And I'm not pushing hard enough. So I'm missing out on that big adaptation that I'm looking for that run. So again, the heart rate and managing the cost of the body in real time is really critical if we're looking to, up our performance adaptation and get a big return on our investment when we are doing our cardiovascular exercise and programming. Now, what factors influence heart rate are critical to understand too. So if I'm back to my run example, if I'm running in my neighborhood and my neighborhood is hilly, as I am trying to average my 8-minute mile pace that I think is appropriate for my endurance adaptation, every time I run up a hill, my pace is either going to slow down or I'm going to hold the same pace, but it's going to cost me a lot more in beats per minute in heart rate in order to get up that hill and maintain the 8-minute mile. So if I decide to do so and hold that pace, now I'm out of my target zone, I'm out of my target stimulus, and I'm going to get a totally different adaptation in my run than what I'm looking for. Those of you that have used heart rate for guidance in low intensity have maybe experienced this, where you've been following heart rate and you understand that on some of these steep hills that you may be running or biking, you might have to slow it down even to a walk to manage heart rate or manage the cost of the body. And that is absolutely okay if we're using our heart rate to guide our intensity, and it's giving us that feedback that we're doing the right thing. We're giving our body the right stimulus for the adaptation. So hills again, and terrain, if you're running on a trail, you're running through grass or gravel, all of those things can make work a little harder to perform. So it's going to cost us a couple extra beats per minute, and we just need to be aware of that. If you're battling, sickness, you've got a cold, you're coming off the flu, and you're recovering, but you're not there yet, your heart rate's going to run a little high. There's a big cost of the immune system there that's, helping our body get over our illness. And you're going to see that your heart rate might take a week or two to come back down to where it should normally be at the same effort or same pace. So just know that and understand that your heart rate's telling you that you are doing more work to your body, even though it isn't a bigger outcome. Heat will do the same thing to you. Our bodies are trying to cool themselves as we're in a hot environment, either outside or you're in a hot gym, you've got extra layers on, whatever that is, or even an extended effort where you're increasing your body temperature when you've been doing something for, let's say 30 to 45 to 60 or even 90 minutes, you'll see a cardiac drift. You'll see your heart rate slowly increase as you increase the duration of the exercise, even if your stimulus doesn't get higher, even if you're at the same pace. So pay attention to all those things and understand that if you are trying to shoot for a specific target, you have to understand that increasing your heart rate beyond that target is going to miss the boat. You're doing a different stimulus, different adaptation that day. So you have to understand what you're doing there. Other things that can also affect your heart rate are, over caffeinating prior to a workout. That'll drive your heart rate up, and so will anxiety, like pre-race jitters. We're talking about training. If we're in a race and we do have that anxiety as you get up to the start line, understand that that will kind of come out in the wash in a few minutes once you calm down and get your body going. So I don't want you to start your race walking just because your heart rate's already high. We're talking about mainly training setting here. So how do we recalibrate or have an understanding of the scale that is individual specific for you with your heart rate? Well, you can do something requiring an estimate, like a field test, that's not optimal, but it is an option out there where you can do something like a 30-minute max effort run. And then what we do is we take your heart rate for the back 20 minutes of that field test, and we find the average. And then that average we take percentages of to estimate our different training zones, right? From usually a 5-zone model, so from zone 1 up through zone 5. Now, depending upon how your body works, whether you're more endurance adapted and very efficient, or whether you can tolerate high intensity exercise a little better, but you don't have a big endurance capability or experience training, those zones that are the outliers may be significantly off, since we're using math and using estimates there based upon one test at one specific pace or one specific intensity. So the real way to do it is using a lab, using a metabolic analyzer, and that's what we do here. So we take you through a graded exercise test, and it can be a number of different protocols, and we're measuring heart rate through a reliable way, which is a chest strap, and we're looking at all the other measurements that we're also taking in through gas exchange. So we're measuring oxygen that's being utilized, carbon dioxide that's being produced. We're looking at our breathing rate, we're looking at our ventilatory threshold, and we're looking at our metabolic function, our carbohydrates that are being utilized versus fat at different intensities. And we're plotting your heart rate and zoning or creating these different segments of zones utilizing all that information. So we're using science instead of math. So there's absolutely no estimating. You have hard targets. Let's say, for example, a zone 1 could be 115 beats per minute to 125. So you know that you're going to get the adaptations that come with zone 1 training when your heart rate's in that segment. And then a zone 2 is going to be 126 to, for example, 132. And then we would go into a zone 3. And we're using these physiological measurables to plot against your heart rate, so then we can use heart rate in your individual specific zones to target your intensity. So now you can take your Garmin watch and get out in the neighborhood with your chest strap, and your numbers actually mean something to you. So you know that you are now equipped with the information to make good decisions in real time, and to look back on workouts and say, okay, I overshot that target goal today for my easy workout, or on this threshold run, I kind of blew up on the last one and my heart rate went way over my threshold. I pushed too hard and I don't want to be there. So this information is equipping you with the power to use science to drive your progress through your specific training protocols. And that's why we love metabolic testing and the science-based lab setting that you get in the Peak Lab.